Big time fight coming up this weekend. We have the sniper Sean Woodson taking on Michigan's own Collin Anglin. And Matt, I was sold a bill of goods on Collin Anglin in his UFC debut, and I am looking at the receipt and wondering what I got because he took on Melzik Bogdasarian in a fight where I expected just chaining the takedowns. This is a guy that wrestled all the way through. This is a guy, by the way, that took an amateur MMA fight because he just thought it would be fun before even training any type of real martial art and going to an MMA gym. So credit where it's
pretty
due
cool.
For Anglin. He is a very, very fun fighter to watch. You want to see some good fights. Obviously, he gets the win over Naimov over on Contender Series, but his knockout win over Frost, his knockout win over Carson, his knockout win over Morgan Sickinger, a guy who had a lot of pro experience. This is a guy who at his core is a very, very well-rounded and fun fighter to watch. It's unfortunate they gave him to a guy whose nickname is The Gun, and now he goes from The Gun to the Sniper. I'm sure Chris Kyle fans would be excited about this. But Matt, when I look at this fight for Sean Woodson, this is a guy that the one knock on him is, well, he doesn't really control distance all that well for being the biggest guy at featherweight. However, his takedown defense in the UFC has actually been quite good. And if you want to focus on it, he took on a very well-rounded Yusuf Zalal, a guy who I would kind of have in a category maybe, well, he's around these guys. He's not near the top 15. He was on a run at one point. Looked like he was going to go there, but he's kind of, waiting around. I'd say 15 to 30, and that's being incredibly generous. Somewhere in that mix, he can have competitive fights there. But when he took on Sean Woodson for Zalal, he only went 2 of 17 in his takedown attempts. Now, a lot of control time, a lot of that spent up against the cage in that fight. But when Woodson was able to kind of pick his shots and go away, 104 to 55 were the total strikes in that fight. So, Matt, for me, I look at Sean Woodson and everything that he does so well, and the work that he does at Wolves Den Training Center, the little bit that he gets in with the Glory Fitness and MMA guys or MMA and fitness guys in that St. Louis region. This guy at his core was the guy that a lot of people were very excited about coming into the UFC with a squeaky clean, undefeated record, wins in the UFC, win on Contender Series over Terrence McKinney, where he's kind of losing that fight until he landed that knee, and then a win in the UFC against Crash Bosniak, and then a loss against Julian Erosa, where he was winning until he wasn't, and then he gets submitted. Matt, in this fight, it's going to be a war of attrition. I can see which guy is going to be able to win a decision.
This is the fight where we find out if Collin Anglin looks like his Tinder profile or if he doesn't at all. Because
Matt,
let's
what
say
does his Tinder profile look like? Whoa.
Oh, like a great wrestler. He's got all, like, Collin Anglin right now is like you swiped right on a 9. You've been talking for a couple days. You're going to go get drinks. Everything seems like it's going to go really well. And then you show up and they just like act really weird the whole time. And like, they still kind of look like that person, but just all the personality is not really there. With Collin Anglin, it's like, okay, I know you're great at wrestling. I know you've got great power. You've at least shown the ability to have a really good gas tank in your fights, but you have to show me that at the highest level. And the weird thing about Sean Woodson is, even with a win in this fight, I know we're both going to have question marks about no matter who wins. Even if Woodson wins, we can still kind of point to Anglin and say, hey, he didn't look great against Bogdasarian. Maybe he is just kind of a wrestler. Maybe he did lack sort of the ability to mix his martial arts a lot. And even if Anglin wins, we're going to point to Sean Woodson and it's just sort of inability to deal with forward pressure in a lot of his fights. So this, I think, could result in a really, really fun matchup. I think this could be fight of the night, sort of buried deep down on the card. But I do find it a really hard fight to predict because with Woodson, it's really going to matter if he can damage Anglin on the way in, not so much what happens in open space. I expect Woodson to win sort of the in-betweens or the stagnant moments in this fight just because he is more of a, I don't even want to say he's more of a volume striker, but he's the more natural striker.
Oh, no, he is.
No, he is. I'm just trying to say, like, he's the more natural striker of the two. So I just expect him to find the holes in those open areas. But where I really expect Woodson to excel at is those in-betweens. When Anglin does try to shoot from far away, that's where I expect Woodson to catch him. It's not just his nickname being the sniper. It is his ability to catch guys on their way in, which is a bit of a double-edged sword because like we saw with Julian Erosa, if you're not able to land that one big kill shot, if you're not able to submit him on his way in, then pressure will really get to Sean Woodson. And I guess this is the question I'm going to bring it back to you with. I think we both see Woodson, at least in the first round with all of his cardio, as being a potential top 15 guy if everything goes right. My question is, what kind of fighter do you think Woodson is after that first round once his fatigue does set in? Because he does seem to be a completely different guy, and I do seem to worry about him. If things don't go his way in that first round, how is he going to look in the second and third where he's trying to mount a comeback?
I've seen him turn it up in fights. I saw him turn it up against Kyle Bochniak. Round 1, round 2, round 3, he turns up his output against Julian Erosa. That was the one where, okay, it was a little weird. I mean, he turned it up from round 1 to round 2, and then in round 3.
But that's my whole thing. If
Julian
things are
Erosa
going
started
his
to catch
way,
up.
they will always go his way. My question with Woodson is, when the going gets tough, does he also get... It's like Lamar Jackson. You know a lot more about football than me. Lamar Jackson was 0 for 6 with comebacks, but he's got, 3 comebacks in the last, 3 or 4 games? He's starting to show that. With Woodson, I doubt his ability to come back in fights.
All I care about is when the Browns win and they cover. So listen, big one over the Bengals this past weekend. But Matt, when we focus on this fight, the one thing that I really like about Sean Woodson, and I think this is the most important part of this fight, Collin Anglin might not be the greatest when he gets backed up. Sean Woodson, when he's hitting on the back foot, is incredibly successful. The trouble is he gets held up against the cage, but the other counter to that is he has good takedown defense, and he's one of those guys that people will make jokes about it. He understands his length very, very well, and it works out tremendously. It's like watching Neil Magny fight at 145 pounds. That's exactly what it is. He knows that length. He knows that strength. Both guys fight relatively similar. Neil will mix in the takedown a little bit more. He's more adept on the ground for sure than Sean Woodson is, but striking-wise, takedown defense-wise, they can use the cage very well and use that range very well when they need to, and I think pumping those shots up tight up the middle, a very good job there too. So Matt, we won't focus on this one for too much longer, but we have a look at the odds for this one. I'm bringing them up. Sean Woodson open to minus 300. He's minus 292 right now. Collin Anglin open to plus 250. He's plus 230 right now. Hazard to guess at the Tapology votes because they're a surprise to us. They are to you. I'm going to say over under 70% Woodson. What would you say?
I think probably over. I doubt a lot of people are impressed after Anglin. Oh, probably over. I doubt a lot of people are impressed after Anglin. So, it's probably over. I doubt a lot of people are impressed with Anglin after his UFC debut.
All right. 851 total votes. Matt's yelled in all of our ears. 90% Woodson, 75% by decision for the 10% that have Anglin, 61% by decision. This is something that we don't often do on the show because I write the odds down beforehand. Let's say fight goes the distance. There's 3 sites that have it minus 165. That's a little bit more sexy than picking Woodson to win. But maybe you like the fight to go to decision. I do. I think Woodson's going to win a decision here. I think the volume is going to be a problem. And I think, again, I know how good his takedown defense is. I think Youssef Zalal is a good wrestler. I know Collin Anglin's a very good wrestler. But I do like Woodson in the situation because he's gone up against wrestlers before, not just Zalal.
I agree 100%. Again, he's shown that ability to defend takedowns, be able to volume strike against wrestlers too, because that's almost like a weird mental hurdle some fighters have to get past is, do I really want to let my hands go against this wrestler? Because that's when they will shoot on me. Sean Woodson doesn't really show that. Like he's not afraid to really let his hands go, really believe and trust in his combination. So no, I agree with you 100%. I like Sean Woodson.
Give me a big time promo with like Craig Berube and Colton Pareko. Let's get the Blues involved with Sean Woodson. Let's have some fun with it, Matt. Both of us taking Sean Woodson to get the win, and you're not going to want to miss the rest of this card, including our main event, Max Holloway taking on Yair Rodriguez. So keep it locked in with Fight Night Picks, and as we always say, let's get into it.